So, these are dark times for Star Wars. Can it be saved? Well, here comes the Mandalorian. Can Mandalorian save the day? No, probably not. The damage done by the the sequel trilogy is pretty severe. But can Mandalorian persevere and save himself? Yeah. Probably have a pretty good series here because this first episode was pretty damn good. Now, it probably looks even better than it really is because of how bad things have been for Star Wars lately. So, the best parts about this episode was in its simplicity. It's basically cowboy western story in space, and this is a template that's been utilized and talked about for quite a while because for entertainment media, the Western was the dominant genre for decades. And then out of that, science fiction kind of supplanted its place. Well, obviously, like Star Trek was sold as a Western in outer space. It actually became its own thing. Star Wars is often compared to stories like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, medieval fairy tale type stuff rather than science fiction in and of itself. But the elements are still there, even with the introduction of Han Solo and all that. It looks very much like the cowboy western type element. And so this was a section of the Star Wars universe you could exploit for new tangents of entertainment within that universe. And this is exactly what they've done. And it probably should have been Boba Fett, but whatever, we'll move with this, who we don't know his name. He's the Mandalorian. Well, the Mandalorians are a race of people, so I guess we'll get to that at some point. And I'm assuming somehow, some way, the helmet will come off so that you can see that it actually is Pedro Pascal. For all we know, he's just doing the voice. And the stuntman's doing all the work. But a very simple story. He's got his bounties that he has to do, and he's collecting on that. And then this ends on a surprise that the subject that he's been sent to by this mysterious group that appears to have been former Imperial people, because there's the guy surrounded by stormtroopers and whatnot, and what's going on? This is far more sinister than we would have thought. But of course, the big reveal at the end, by now I'm sure you know, that the mark was an infant of the species that Yoda comes from. So there's this little baby Yoda in there, even though it's 50 years old, but apparently it takes a long time for Yoda's people to grow up. 50 years, jeez. So there you go. That's all well and good. And then, of course, all the Easter eggs and nods to the universe that's little treats here and there, which again, very good, and obviously just shows you that this was conducted by people who actually know Star Wars and love Star Wars. So they know this world and they know how to put things in it. And also, it's not just Easter eggs, but when you had where the Mandalorian has to partner up with IG-88, which he says IG unit. Is it really IG-88? I don't know. Maybe I missed it. But, that droid. And it's too bad that the droid had to be killed at the end, because I think that they would have made a good partnership off and on. But then again, it's a droid, so maybe they could bring it back, But that was cool, and it's useful and, for the plot, very practical towards it. So works out pretty good. Yeah, there are some things that some people say, you're just nitpicking. I've seen other reviews of the show and whatnot, but some of these details, it's the kind of thing that could have been solved just with editing. The carbonite being utilized when seems like he's just using it all the time. You have to assume, I don't know exactly what time frame we're in here, but it's post Return of the Jedi, and because they mentioned the Empire's gone, because Apollo Creed tries to I think his name is Grief in this tries to pay him with Imperial credits, but of course that currency is no good anymore because the Imperial government's gone. And but how many years between Empire Strikes Back to now where the technique was first introduced of freezing people into carbonite? We just don't know. And apparently the technology has gotten more advanced and compact because he just does it very quickly in the back of his spaceship there with the I don't know, the fish guy that he captures. Just pushes him in, and it sets off the condition, which it looks like it would have frozen his hand in with the bounty there. And so I think primarily just when he sneaks up behind the guy and he doesn't know he's there, and he makes his line, he's then you could have just gone to black, and the next scene is, you know, fish guy is stuck in the carbonite. That would have been a better way to do it without showing it kind of in a foolish way of how he conducts it so quickly and that sort of thing. But what are you going to do? That's how it is. Some people complained about the tracking module, but maybe they'll explain it later as to how this infant it can be tracked. I'm not. Maybe there's just somebody chipped the kid. I don't know. But the music, there were some complaints about that. It is not up to the level it should be. It comes across sounding kind of cheap. It needs a little bit more orchestration, because I don't think the compositions in and of themselves are bad, and they kind of fit this alien Western style. But it's odd because I watched it all the way through the credits, and the theme starts off kind of simple and then builds up into, you know, what you are familiar with Star Wars type, you know, orchestrations, you know, full orchestras. Yeah, you need to bring more of that in and spread that out throughout the show to match it up with Star Wars. And so it certainly has recognizable elements and feel of Star Wars in it, which other films do not. And one in particular doesn't even try. But it's some episodes it doesn't have quite the cinematic flair, which it doesn't, because it's meant to be a television series. So there is that. But all in all, pretty good. I think they spared their budget wisely and not too much for it, so it wouldn't be too expensive for them. And little bits here and there, and monsters jumping out, and all well and good. Everyone performed their roles well, and again, the smart tactic here is keeping it very simple. You know, he's a bounty hunter. He's got to hunt these people down, and now he's got this mysterious case for this infant, and he's like, hey, what's this about? And he wasn't willing to kill an infant. You know, that's why he had to blow IG-88 away. As for the mystery of his tribe, there's a hint of his backstory, that he suffered some terrible tragedy in his youth, and so we'll get probably more details of the Mandalorians overall, and that sort of thing. And I am wondering how much of it will give a nod to what was told in the expanded universe stories and now called Legends and all that sort of thing. I think it would be very wise of them to borrow a lot from that. I understand it can't be completely in line with it, considering what they've done. You know, I don't know how you keep the timelines and what working right, but whatever. There are a lot of elements there that are beloved, and a lot of the history and story about the Mandalorians pretty fleshed out and explained, and so that makes it a lot easier, I would think, to have a foundation for this character to come from and be a part of and all that. So so far so good. It is only one episode, and again, another wise choice is I understand that I believe it's only 8 episodes. Maybe someone can comment and say, yeah, it is. That's a good idea, because I when I'm reviewing other streaming shows, and most notably the DC Universe shows, they're doing way too many episodes per season for the story material they have. They don't have enough. And if this story is tight and concise and to the point and has its payoff, this will do very well for them and can go a long way to heal some wounds done by the sequel trilogy. And I only say the sequel trilogy. The 2 standalone films don't really bother me. I know people were mad at Solo. It's not as damaging as what Last Jedi was. and the sequel trilogy overall, because that's the Skywalker saga. That's the heart and soul of the whole damn thing. You can go off and tell stories about droids or whatever, but it's not gonna make up for what that was, and that's too bad. But still, Mandalorian can still be a great show, and it's just too bad it's always going to have to put up with that stench. You know, it's always going to be there, grating against it. But so there you go. Mandalorian, the first episode, looks to be pretty good. So let's hope so. All right, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you.